computer. Okay. Hey, everybody. It is Donna from Cultivating Well-Being. I'm not saying the full title because it's a mouthful, but we're so glad that you're here. And I have brought to you today two of my nearest and dearest, Lauren Abrami and Elizabeth Johnson. And they are both their wives. They are amazing human beings. They are rock star coaches and teachers in their own right. And they are the people I go to when it comes to activism, because activism is not something that has come natural to me. And I have always admired and respected and been moved by the love that these two have for our country and our rights. And they always approach it from a way that feels very heartfelt, that moves me into action in ways that I don't normally orient towards. So I wanted to bring them here today to talk about what Lauren did a video on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, where she was talking about activism as well-being. And so I want to talk about that. I want to help the people that are in this group who are really committed to, like, I want to cultivate well-being while doing my part to impact the most critical election of our lifetime. And so I really want them to hear from you guys. What is it about activism that moves you and that feels like well-being to you?
Okay. Yeah.
Please.
So, I think for me, all of us, right? We remember the 2016 election and how heartbreaking that was. And, I feel like I consider myself to be a very spiritual person, and a person that I think, like many of us, like really connects to our core spiritual principles, like the things that really unite us, these ideas of love and of empathy. And, as we've all been watching over the last years, my anxiety levels were going really high. I wasn't, really since the 2016 election, I've been sleeping differently. I've been anxious. I will want to understand people from different perspectives. I feel like our conversations have been limited. We're in echo chambers, all of that. And I think I finally, I think for me, the reason I started engaging even more than I had in 2016 was for my own well-being. I was like, the only way that I can actually move through this anxiety is to be in action. And, I think as soon as I started being in action, as soon as I started phone banking or canvassing and reaching out to other people in the country, I started to feel better, because I was like, no matter what news is happening out there, I know I've taken my step for the day towards the world that I want to see. And I think if we believe in those spiritual principles, what's happening in our country right now is inhumane, right? And it's not just for me about sides, and it's not about policy, but it is about, I would say, the foundation of our democracy. And it's also about how do we want to forward ourselves as human beings in the world. And so if I'm believing those spiritual tenets and not acting, it's like there's an out of alignment. I was feeling out of alignment with them. And so I think that the activism all of a sudden landed me in my alignment. And I was like, okay, this is right. This feels good. It's because it's connecting my deeper self with my human self and standing up for what feels right. So that's for me.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've seen her relax so much more. We're still having the rage and the concern and all this stuff, but there was a series of time right before we started phone banking this time where she was waking up really early and she was fretting, or she was on her phone or reading the news, and I could see it in her, right? And all of us, it's just this and it's we get sucked into this almost anxiety bubble of again, focusing on what's wrong, because there are things that are wrong right now, right? And then it's but the minute she was I'm going to do something about it, it's so interesting. I just want to, we thought it would just be the scary thing of pushing a limit, which we'll maybe talk about later, getting out of your comfort zone, and it gifts us with this release. It gifts us with purpose. It gifts us with, again, all those times that I'm oh my God, I'm so anxious about this. And then we just sit there looking at our phone. It's how many hours have we done that?
And when we do it with each other. So it's did you see that news? I did see that news. And I did too. I just was on my phone doing that, but it doesn't feel good and it doesn't move us forward.
And she just turned to me a little while ago, a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, and was just I need to stop talking about it and I need to do something.
Right.
shifted her energy. And then it guilted me enough to listen to my deeper truth to start moving my energy as well. So.
That's so cool. You know, it reminds me of like, it feels like this is part of the spiritual opportunity of this whole time. Cause it was like, I had that same experience around the time of George Floyd's murder, where I realized all of a sudden I woke up to something shifted in me that was like, I can't just keep, it wasn't just some aha. I posted something on Facebook, like, what is going on? And I had someone call me out, like, you know, or like, no, not again. And they're like, well, what are you doing about it? And I was like, whoa. And it really was this wake up call of like, I can't just be outraged. There needs to be action behind it. Where am I putting my money? What am I speaking up against? All of those things. And a similar thing happened with my class. So my class was originally just going to be about each of us taking care of ourselves, our well-being during this time, how to use this, you know, again, like you said, we're all like, what's happening? And in the angst and the frustration. And then another friend called me out and was like, called me forward, I should say. It was both were a call forward of like, you know, we have to actively get this man, you know, we have to get Trump out of the White House. There's like active white supremacy is not being denounced. Like, this is not a drill, people. Like, we've got to be in action. Right. And I actually changed the format of this class, and I made it free so that people could start to bring in, what are we doing? And how are we taking care of ourselves? So I love what you're saying, Lauren, about like that action was one of the things that you could do. And for you, it sounded like one of the key things to be in integrity with yourself and to have your actions and your energy going towards a solution and knowing that you could then, it's like when we know we've done something, or I guess I'd ask this question, what does knowing that you've done something, how does that help? So like, let's say he wins the election, God forbid, but like, what do you, I don't even want to put that out there, but it is like, what does that, having participated, how does that help?
I mean, I think for me, it connects me with humanity, right? Like, I think many of us that are, you know, probably in your class and that are in my world, at least, like we are light workers, right? Like we are people that have empathized with where we are, that have studied, that want like the highest and best. And so I think for me, the joy, like, I think sometimes we think of things, and I'll get to your question, but I think sometimes we think of things like phone banking and canvassing and texting. We're like, oh God, like we feel contracted in ourselves. And I think people are always like, oh my gosh, are you hitting people's resistance? We're so afraid of people's rejection. We're so afraid of people's anger. But what I found for myself is that I feel so filled with light, like with my own, like, spiritual light. Like there's something about kind of reaching through the screen or reaching past the door and actually having that human to human connection. And what the outcome in those conversations or not, I feel like what I'm putting out there is like, I love you and I love this country and I believe in us. And so it's like, when I'm done with those calls, I feel, you know, and I have some hangups and I have really good conversations and all the things, but there is that, like, I am in my light. And I think any spiritual teacher would say that, you know, I mean, you've seen it in the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Like you say, like, you know, people that have been, and I have plenty of privilege, right? So I don't want to speak for, but I think, you know, you ask that same thing of people that have been fighting oppression their entire lives, but you see a certain level of joy and resilience because you know that you're fighting for what is right and like those. So it doesn't matter what the outcome is, because I know that that is the, like, deep in my bones right thing to be aligned with. Okay. Yeah. Like we do what we can and then we keep on standing. And even if Biden-Harris wins, we keep on standing, right?
It's gonna be a whole other class.
That's a whole other conversation. So anyway, I could talk. Sorry, I feel like
again, like Lauren was saying, I feel like we wouldn't be looking at the world we're looking at if we had been connecting with the divine in our hearts and connecting with each other. This would never be happening. right? If that hadn't been lost and we hadn't all gone into our own little fear places and our own little, and we separate and we disconnect again from everything, right? So we're starting to like, again, strengthen, remember, reignite those things that are like the reason that we're here, and we remember why we're here. The other thing though about like doing it now and how it feels better, I am like not a big fan of the using regret, you know, but I remember having some major regret in 2016. And the thing about regret, it's not like, oh, I should have known all this stuff. It's more, I think regret is really tough and really heavy when we knew we got the sign, right? The sign came in, you heard that message, you got that thing, I had that conversation, we get it, and we're like, and we're right there, and then fear change is so scary that we're like, I'll do it later. You know, what's amazing is we literally have less than a month. Like we're asking ourselves to act in ways for less than a month that we may not normally act in, or things we may do, or stepping out of our comfort zone, literally till November 3rd. And then again on November 4th, we'll talk about what we need to keep doing.
Yeah.
But there's something about this moment of, I did like a couple weeks ago be like, what would it take for me not to have regret on November 4th?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I think we're all getting different curriculum about that. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I love too is that you two have always taught me is that it's like we each get to look into our lives about like, well, what does that stand look like for us?
Yes.
We stand with our exact set of circumstances, whether we have like kids or whether we're taking care of elderly family or whether we're single or married, whatever. It's like we each can look into ourselves and go, like you two chose phone banking, and sounds like Lauren, you did canvassing. Elizabeth, did you do canvassing as well? You're like, right.
I didn't get called for that one yet, thank God, but I'll be open.
It's good, I promise, it's good.
Yeah, but what I love is that it's like the three of us all have in common is we're big on like checking in, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, for me, I felt really called, like, I want to host this class. Like, to me, that's part of my activism is like hold space, give tools, give resources, bring people together, keep having those conversations while we're all moving our feet. So there's that. I also have been like reaching out to like, I was like looking in my world and I was like, oh, I do have some people that I'm concerned aren't going to vote, whether because they've come here in recent years or they don't like whatever fears of going and doing that. And it's been really powerful because I think in the past, I probably would have been like, oh, it's not a big deal. But it's like, it's so critical right now. It's like, do you want me to go to the poll with you? Do you want me to?
Yes, please do.
I'm going, we're doing early voting together in support of like, get your butt to the poll and I'll hold your hand if I need to. And so that's feeling really enlivening. So how would you suggest, especially, I think you two had told me like this next week especially is pretty important. So I know you're going to give us some resources and we'll list just so everybody knows rather than, don't try to sit here and take notes. I'll get the notes down and we'll send you and it'll be in this email. But like, what would you suggest? How do people first and foremost get over any resistance they might have and or just check in to be like, what is in alignment? Yeah. What small step could I take? What step, if any? Maybe they're starting from that question of like, what is there any place where I would regret if I didn't do something? Like, I don't know. How would you suggest people start, especially people who might be resistant to taking steps like this?
Yeah. Can I say one thing that I want you to answer?
Yeah.
If you haven't done anything yet at all, if you've been like quietly watching on the sidelines, it is okay. Like, it's not too late. It's not too late. And like, do not guilt yourself or shame yourself or anything. Like, it's okay. So I just want to say that because sometimes we make it bigger when we're like, I haven't moved yet. So yeah.
And I think, and I'm guessing, Donna, you're going to be working with everyone who's hearing this too, of like listening in. But I think a moment where you, in whatever way each person does this, but drop into your heart, like, or drop into the feeling of love. Sometimes, like, again, I think about my cat, or I think about like a kid that you know, or like, I love it, like that thing that you think of and you kind of melt in joy. So you drop into your heart, right? So kind of scoop yourself up with that. So start with the love. That's what I would do. Softens me, and then drop in and with a lot of love but honesty, check in and be like, on November 4th, if I'm looking back, what will I have wished I had done? right? What will I wish I had done? And then you may hear one step, you may hear a bunch of steps. And again, like you're saying, just take the first step. Or if you get like, I got this, like I am meant to phone bank at least once a week through the election. And I'm going to tell Lauren and I'm going to say it. And now I'm going to do things externally. So it's holding me lovingly accountable because my being wants to do this. Like my humanity wants to do this. My fear wants to watch Netflix, like literally only usually, right? When I'm scared. So I think, yeah, I would say dropping into heart, imagining the day after the election, asking with a lot of kindness and curiosity, what is my next step? That's how I, again, I'm sure you're going to be supporting people listening to that. So yeah, that's how I would start. And if you start to feel guilty, then you're just like, again, drop back into the heart, whatever practices you're sharing of listening to the step from that intuition. I almost feel like, again, like, the divine is this master plan. And it's like, I'm assigning you this. We all get our class schedules and we have different assignments.
Right. And I love what you're saying, especially about the love piece, because I know for me, sometimes when I think about it, it's like, I want to do it because I'm so aggravated and I just want to make it. And I'm like, I can feel the like, energy. Yeah. So I appreciate, and you know what, for some people, if that's going to move you, go.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, right. I think
okay, you don't have to be like, right. Like I know that, so there's going to be that energy. And I do think it's also an opportunity. Like I feel more open to doing it when I feel like, oh, if I show up and I'm showing up just in my light and in my my love and deep caring for this world and like knowing that like I've done my part, Lauren, like you'd said, of like, I've done my part to bring love here and to stand for what I believe in. To me, with well-being, I think that's the thing, is like, we have to keep looking at what's going to provide what helps me feel good may not be what helps Elizabeth feel good or helps you feel good. And it's like, we each have to locate that inside of ourselves as part of our well-being during this time. That has helped me do things like, I saw someone that I know, and I think she's a smart, wonderful woman. She's a good friend of my aunt. And she had this big video on Facebook about loving Trump. And I was like, I dropped into my heart and I was like, I actually think you're an amazing human. I'm so curious. And we got into it, and I not got into it, but I really asked her and she told me. And then I was like, we had agreed not to argue. And then I knew for my well-being, I just had to point out there was something about her saying Trump wasn't a racist because he had people, Black people that worked for him. And I said, and I had to really listen in, and I was like, my well-being was my commitment to myself to not be silent around that anymore. Like, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, cause I was like, well, I'm not going to change her mind. And, it's like, what difference could it make? And it's like, the difference it made was me and my well-being and standing for what's right for me.
My love, that's it. Because we've been talking about Lauren's family a lot, and this is not about convincing anyone.
Right.
This is the name of the game. This is about standing in our most loving truth and standing it and acting from it. And that instead of being like, I'm going to try to, standing in it. Because we don't stand in it, and then we get quiet, and then we get scared. Our yard sign, our yard sign? It says,
when hate speaks loudly, love must not be silent.
So what we want is our love to not be silent.
Yes.
And so one other thing I just wanted to say super quick. For me, I need to go into full love to move. Other people, I just want to say, like, if fury, anxiety, fear moves you, you'll talk with people about also then when to connect with the heart. But I'm not saying like you have to be in a totally loving state to move. For me, I shut down if I'm not connected to it. Other people, it fuels you forward. And then, okay, how can I connect with, now that I'm on my little rocket of fury, but like then connect with my too, both work.
Well, we've heard this before, but love isn't just the nurturing kind of love, right? Like love can also be fierce, and love can stand when injustice is happening. Love can be mighty, and it can be like Mama bear. Yeah.
Yes.
Think about our children. Like love can be Mama bear and say, like, for our planet, for our children, for what's happening, like we must. And that's where the line is, where it's just like, I love that Mama bear energy.
Yes.
But I'm like,
you are too.
Yeah.
It's true. And what I love too about what you're both saying, it's like, it is that there's still the connection to love. Because I think where a lot of people are suffering is like, it's like more like I'm in my anger and I'm not connected to my heart.
And it's hurting us.
And it's hard. It is hard right now. Like, it is like we're in the CrossFit of being in your heart. It's like we're in one of those, like, you know, there's like endurance runners that run for 100 miles or something. It's like, that's what it feels like. It's like, that's what we're experiencing. And so part of that, you know, so we are going to be celebrating people's activism on the calls each week. We're going to be creating well-being plans for that include activism, so people can look ahead to their week and say, how can I put attention on this? And so, yeah, I love the bringing it. I keep saying love. I love bringing it back to the love, because, you know, and the mama bear love and all the flavors of love. Yes.
All the flavors. Yes. And I will just say, for people that are nervous, like I said this earlier, but we are resilient. Like, we can do this. You know, we think about, like, what is our biggest fear, right? If we think about phone banking or canvassing or texting, like, that someone might get mad at us, that someone might disagree with us. You know, it's those things that have kept us silent for so long, right? And it's like, we're resilient. And it's okay if somebody gets mad, or if someone doesn't agree with you. Like, this is the courageous, brave move. And I will say that the reward of actually connecting with your neighbors, because don't you all miss it? Like, even like, I want to know the people that live near me. I want to connect with other people in my area, in my country. So it takes courage, but there's also great reward in the connection, in like going to people's doors and saying, hi, I'm a real human, whether I'm on your side or the other side, or like, we are real and we are connected. We are neighbors. So anyway, I think if you're nervous, just remember your bravery and your resilience. We are okay. Like, you are safe and you are okay, even if it feels a little risky, you know?
Yes.
And Dons, I know you asked about, because I know we're probably running close, but steps. So there's a few things. So we have friends that run the gamut, right? So we don't have children, so it's easier for us to phone bank in the evening. For some of our friends that have kids, I can feel the guilt, right? They're like, oh, like, I don't know if this is the amount of time I have. So as we said, like, drop in and really listen to what works for you. So I think first thing, obviously, make your voting plan, figure out how you're voting. Tell people, celebrate it. Even if you do nothing else, post it on social, say you voted, encourage people. Like you said, Don, find the people in your life that maybe haven't voted and encourage them to vote. And then next steps is, like Elizabeth said, you know, drop in and see what you like to do. So some of the ways that you can get involved more specifically are, you know, you could phone bank. And phone banking is either calling people in your state. There's also places you can call swing states, and see if you can get out the vote in some of those states that have very close elections.
And especially, well, I'm not sure when you're sharing this out, but again, people can be in touch, because there are times where, especially like right now when we're filming this, the voting by mail ballots have arrived in Maine, right? But that'll be different. We can connect more about that. There are times when it's like getting the energy around so that they end up in someone's mailbox, and it's like that little bit of energy and enthusiasm and encouragement to actually have them bring it or mail it or take that next step. So that's happening all around.
And you can do get out the vote stuff. You can do persuasion work with talking with undecided voters. You can also, they're starting canvassing in some states, like tomorrow they're starting canvassing in Maine, which means going door to door. You can also, if you love to text, you can do texting and remind people to get out the vote or get them their voter information. And you can also, one of the things we really loved is, we haven't done this, but we've received this, is people are writing letters postcards or letters to other people. And there's sites that help you write a little note of, you know, get out the vote for whoever the candidate is. So we will give you those resources, Donna, and give you those websites. Would you want to?
Yes. Yeah, we'll put it, we're going to, in the email that this is connected to, we will list all the resources so that you can just like, I know that was one thing that felt super overwhelming to me, was I was like, I don't know what's a good organization. So I was like, well, I'll just reach out to my friends that are, you know, that are being active, and people can also just go online and find the places that they want to support.
And also, you can also find your state, like if you know who's in your Senate race, then you can join a specific campaign. Like we started by joining our Senate race campaign, which then ended up is helping kind of all the different races in the state. But so you can also go to the presidential race, you can go to your specific Senate race or congressional race as well. So you can always look those things up. But remember, different people are voting early at different times, depending on states. And feel in, like, I hate writing, hate it. Well, and I don't like texting either. So for me, I'm like, I want to talk. I just want to like chat. I want to be on the phone.
No, I do not want to do that.
Yeah. So you don't want to do that.
Right.
Elizabeth, like
texting.
So texting.
Yeah,
My mom is writing letters because she wanted to do that. So you don't have to do all of it. And we certainly haven't. But again, if you can commit to one and get in your rhythm with it from now through the election, like we've been phone banking once or twice a week, just consistently. And that consistency, I think, will make you feel better and will really help.
That's so beautiful. Anything else you would add, Elizabeth? That was so helpful, Lauren. Yes, thank you so much.
I would just say to share, especially in this group and with like a buddy or a friend, what you're doing, so that then it's just life. Again, life does get really busy, and then we also get really scared of staying in it. And so then it's just being like, again, from now to November 3rd, I'm going to stretch a little bit. When in those moments when I don't want to phone bank the other day, and I was like, I just want to not be doing something, right? Like I had this moment of, again, thinking about some friends of mine who I feel like are literally have lost or losing their rights because of the way our government is set up right now. And
we might be losing our rights,
we could
too,
lose our marriage. Like, I mean, there's a lot. So just to think of even one person, again, not out of a guilt, but out of an inspiration of care to get to that energy to be like, I'm going to dedicate this to that person. And again, getting ourselves out, right? Because again, this is not easy. It's not simple. It's not like, oh, this feels so good. I want to do this every day, right? It is that extra, but it is so worth it if you remember the why.
Oh my gosh. That's such a great like motivator, right? Because that's the thing that moved me was my friend Sarah reaching out to me and being like, please, do you know what it's like to have your life be like, oppressed the way this is, or have my value be like questioned because of the color of my skin? It was like, that moved me. And so I love, like, it's like, right, like I'm dedicating this class to her for that impetus. And for, for the loves that you are, it's like, I don't want you. And I have so many friends that, are married, gay couples that are married. I'm like, I will do this for them. I cannot stand by and watch or willingly or silently or, not do something. So I love that idea of dedicate your service over this next few months.
And picture the wave of love. Picture it as like a wave of love just overtaking this country. Let us bring more wholeness.
Yes, beautiful. I so appreciate you too. I appreciate the work that your stand in the world, doing this for me and for these people that are in my group, doing it for your state and for your country, for your friends. Like, you two are extraordinary humans. Thank you so much for sharing with us, as always. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Johns. Thanks for asking.
We love you.
We love you so much.
And love to all of you.
Yes. Have fun. Yes.
Yeah. Send us pictures or whatever you do. Like, we love to celebrate that stuff too. So.
Oh, that's a great idea. Pictures is a great idea. Yeah, we're going to be celebrating each week, so we'll keep you in the loop as to what's happening and what you've inspired. So thank you both. I so appreciate you.
Thanks,
all right, here's
all
of our well-being.
Here's all of our well-being.
Here's to our democracy.
Here's to our democracy.
More love for all.
Yes. Go.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.